And me too.
And I'll say welcome to everyone who's joining us for the Reading Online Sports Economics Seminar. We're delighted to sit within the East-West Football Economics and Finance Conference today. If you are joining us just for the Roses talk, please feel free to stick around for the rest of the day. There's a fantastic lineup of talks coming after the Roses talk, and indeed the Roses talk itself, by Dmitry Dagaev. We're delighted to have Dmitry giving the talk today. He's going to talk on strategic broadcasting of a championship to earn more from ads or to incentivize subscription. And so, Dmitry, please take it away.
Thank you, James. I will share my screen now. Okay, do you see my presentation?
Yep.
Okay, so this is our joint paper with Igor Karpov, who works at the Laboratory of Sports Studies. He will begin his PhD classes next September at University of Chicago. So the motivation for this research came from the real world case. Please have a look at this table. Here you can see the number of broadcasted matches of the Russian Premier League on the only free-to-air sports TV channel in Russia, Match TV. So this is the season 2017-2018. Okay, and here you can see that the Match TV broadcasted mostly the top teams, especially in the first round. By the second round, the number of broadcasted games decreased. Still, the top teams were broadcasted more often than the teams from the bottom half of the table. Okay, so here you can see that the correlation between the rank of a team and the number of broadcasts is quite remarkable. And the percentage of top 5 teams in the total number of broadcasts is high enough. Okay. However, 1 year later, the number of broadcasted matches decreased, and more interestingly, the teams from the bottom half of the tournament table now are broadcasted more often than the teams from the top half of the table. What is the reason? Why the strategy of the broadcaster changed? Is it rational to broadcast the teams from the bottom half? So you can see here that the correlation between the rank and the number of broadcasts is negative now, and the percentage of top 5 teams in the total number of broadcasts decreased. So the possible reason of this change of the strategy is that the new TV channel, Match Premier, was launched. And this TV channel belongs to the same TV holding as Match TV. So now all matches are broadcasted live on the paid TV channel Match Premier, and only 1 match per day is broadcasted on the free-to-air TV channel Match TV. So now it seems that possibly this change of the strategy can be associated with incentivizing football fans for subscription on the paid TV channel. However, still the question is, why to broadcast the matches at all on the free-to-air channel? So it seems that there is a trade-off between broadcasting good matches live on the free-to-air channel and getting high revenues from the advertisement, and incentivizing the fans for subscription on the paid TV channel. Okay, so there are two corner solutions. For example, if the price for the advertisement is close to zero, then it is obvious that it is optimal to incentivize all fans to switch to the paid channel. Okay, because the revenues from the subscription fees will be higher than the revenues from the advertisement. Another corner solution comes when the prices for the advertisement are high. In that case, it is optimal to incentivize all fans to stay on the free-to-air channel, so the TV holding will get high revenues from broadcasting the advertisement. So the research question of this paper is, how could be optimal this intermediate strategy chosen by the holding? Why to broadcast weak matches on the free-to-air channel? Why to broadcast at all? It is not a corner solution, so it is not obvious that such strategy can be optimal at all. Okay, so in this paper, we propose a theoretical model that shows that indeed, for some market structures, it could be optimal to exploit a strategy chosen by Match TV. Okay. Now I would like to say a couple of words about the literature. So it seems that David today already talked about some important papers about the broadcasting. Yes, I would like to mention several works. So first of all, some of the researchers pay attention to the competition between free-to-air and paid TV channels. It's not our case, because in our case, these two TV channels are not competitors. They are like complements to each other. Okay, so one of the important lines in the literature is the competition between free-to-air and paid TV channels. Some of the researchers, Solberg, for example, criticizes the restrictions that prevent major sports events from moving to the paid TV channels. Some European countries, most of the countries in Asia, have some regulatory policy that prevent mega events from moving to the paid TV channels. Okay, I would like to mention the book by Evans, Iosifidis, and Smith, who developed the political economy theory of broadcasting rights. In one of the chapters, they pay attention to the balancing the social importance of the free-to-air broadcasting and commercial interests of paid TV broadcasters. Okay. However, Smith, in his later paper, emphasizes that the importance of the free-to-air broadcasting of listed events on the grounds of equity and positive cultural network externalities. So this could also be important when considering this trade-off. Okay. Now let's analyze the literature from the supply side and from the demand side. First, on low competitive markets, the broadcasters obviously can exploit the monopolistic position through collective selling. However, Peters demonstrated that collective sales do not help in increasing the competitive balance in the European football leagues, as well as in the international competitions, such as the UEFA Champions League. So it's a question whether collective sales, it's still a question whether the collective sales are optimal from the social welfare perspectives. Okay. Fujik and Frawley compared the broadcasting strategies of two major Australian leagues. The National Rugby League and the Australian Football League. They used TV ratings as a proxy for the success of the broadcasting strategy. I would like to mention the very recent paper by Bergantinos and Moreno-Tornero, who developed the axiomatic approach on how to share the revenues how to share the revenues from broadcasting TV rights. Okay. As for the demand side, the work of Solberg and Hammervold studied the determinants of live football matches ratings. In Spain, with an exception of matches of top teams, football matches are not of nationwide general interest. It was demonstrated by Perez, Puente, and Rodriguez. And according to the Spanish law, therefore, there is no obligation to broadcast football matches on the free-to-air TV channel. So there are some regulatory policies, but according to the rules, no obligations to broadcast matches on the free-to-air TV channel. Okay. The work of Fujik and Froley estimates how well advertisement corresponds to the skewed demographics in the National Rugby League and the Australian Football League audience. So it's about, well, how well those who sell the advertisement match this advertisement with the audience of these competitions. Finally, I would like to mention the work of Fujik et al., who revealed that basically the fans treat different sport teams as complements, and it's an important factor that we should take into account when considering the competition. Okay, our paper is a little bit different. So in our paper, there is no competition between different broadcasters, no. We consider the TV holding that consists of two channels, the free-to-air channel and the paid channel. Well, alternatively, you can think about free-to-air TV channel and, for example, paid internet channel of the same TV channel. So if you just sell the subscription for the internet channel, that's the same story. And we would like to evaluate the strategies of broadcasting football matches. Okay, so we will demonstrate that for some configurations of the football market, the strategy of broadcasting quick matches on the free-to-air TV channel could be optimal. Okay. So now we move on to the model. We consider a simple round-robin championship. 4 teams are participating in the tournament. Okay, we will call them Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, and Team 4. Therefore, there are 3 match days. 2 matches are played on each match day. Okay. We will denote by SI the team I's rating, and without loss of generality, we will assume that the first team is the strongest and the 4th team is the weakest one. Okay, so we order the teams by their rating. Okay, now there are several groups of fans. So denote by FI the number of Team I fans. Okay. Besides the team fans, there are neutral spectators, and denote by N the number of neutral spectators. And the utility of fans and neutral spectators is different. For team fans, they get positive utility from watching a match of their team. We will denote this utility by U. And they derive a 0 utility from watching the match without their team. As for the neutral spectators, their utility depends on the quality of the match, that is, on the sum of the ratings of two teams, and on the competitive intensity of the match, that is, on the difference of the ratings of two participating teams. Here, alpha and beta are some constant parameters of the model, so that we can vary these parameters and study the comparative statics of this model. We will assume that alpha is greater than beta, but it's just a technical assumption, just in order to make sure that the utility depends positively on the rating of the strongest team in the match. Okay. Now, another side of this model is the TV holding. As I already mentioned, the TV holding consists first of the free-to-air TV channel, and second, the paid TV channel. So broadcasting rights belong to this holding, and there are the following rules. First, not more than one game per match day can be broadcasted on the free-to-air TV channel. Okay. On the free-to-air channel, there is a lot of advertisement, and it is shown before, after the match, in the halftime, and this free-to-air TV channel gets some fixed revenue from broadcasting the advertisement. Let's denote it by P, P hat, okay? And it's the revenue that the TV channel gets per match per each person. So the more fans watch the advertisement, the higher is the revenue of the TV channel. Okay, this parameter, this price, is exogenously given, so the TV channel cannot influence this price because of the market competition. Okay, and the second TV channel, the paid TV channel, all matches of the tournament are broadcasted live on the paid TV channel. There is no, we will assume that there is no advertisement on the paid TV channel, and the manager chooses the subscription price, P. We will assume that the subscribers of the paid channel will not watch the free-to-air channel. So no reason to watch advertisement. Okay. The timing of this game is as follows. So first, the manager decides which match to broadcast on the free-to-air TV channel on each match day, and he announces the schedule. Okay. Next, he chooses the subscription price, and after that, all groups of fans observe the decision of the manager, and they decide which matches they would like to watch, and that, whether they would like to subscribe for the paid TV channel. Okay, so this is the timing. We will consider three very simple broadcasting strategies. We will assume that the manager's goal is to maximize the profit of the holding. So the manager chooses between one of the following strategies. The first strategy is to broadcast the best match of the match day on the free-to-air TV channel. Okay, that is the match with the highest sum of teams' ratings. The second strategy is to broadcast the weakest match on the free-to-air TV channel. That is the match with the lowest sum of the ratings. And finally, the third strategy is do not broadcast any matches at all on the free-to-air channel. So if we consider once again the decision of the Match TV, they utilized strategy number 2. So it seems obvious that for some parameters of the market, strategy 1 could be optimal and strategy 3 could be optimal. But the question is, how can strategy 2 be optimal? For example, if the price of the advertisement is close to 0, then there is no reason to broadcast matches on the free-to-air TV channel. You just incentivize the fans to subscribe for the paid TV channel. Okay. Next, if the price of the advertisement is high, then we just can set the high subscription price. Then nobody will pay for subscription. And in that case, if we broadcast the strongest match on the free-to-air channel, we will get the highest possible revenue out of these 3 strategies. So obviously there are more strategies, some mixes of these 3 strategies. However, these 3 strategies cover all principal, all basis solutions, all basis strategies. Okay, so we will compare only these 3. And to solve this model, we will evaluate the profit in each of the 3 cases, and then we will compare these profits. So we will distinguish between 2 cases. The first case is when the sum of the ratings of the first team and the fourth team is less than the sum of the ratings of the second team and the third team. This is a kind of group of death when the teams are close in their strength. And vice versa, when the sum of the ratings of the first team and the fourth team is greater than the sum of the ratings of the second team and the third team, we will say that this is a group with an obvious leader. For the sake of simplicity, I will consider the first case. The second case is very similar, so no reason to waste time on the similar calculations. So let's consider the case of the group of death first. Okay, in this case, the match between the second and the third team is preferred to the match between the first and the fourth team by neutral spectators. Okay, now let's evaluate each of the 3 strategies. So the strategy 1, to broadcast the strongest match. First, in order to evaluate the strategy, we have to calculate the willingness to pay for subscription for all groups of the fans. In this case, the fans of the first, second, and third team would like to pay you because they just want to watch 1 match in 3 match days on the paid TV channel, because 2 matches of their favorite teams will be broadcasted on the free-to-air TV channel. For Group 4, it's different. Group 4 would like to pay 3U because all 3 matches will be broadcasted only on the paid TV channel. Okay. Now consider the neutral spectators. Denote their willingness to pay as P prime, and P prime will be equal to the sum of the willingness to pay for the match, for the strongest matches. Okay, it's the matches between, sorry, for the weakest matches, because the strongest matches are broadcasted on the free-to-air channel, so the weakest matches are broadcasted on the paid channel. and it's matches between the first and the fourth team, the second and the fourth team, and the third and the fourth team. So we can calculate the willingness to pay for subscription for the neutral fans. You can see this P prime here. It's exactly the sum of the willingness to pay for these three matches. Okay. And now a simple observation. So when the profit of the TV holding can be maximized? Obviously, the maximal profit can be reached when the subscription price is equal to one of the maximal willingness to pay. It's U, 3U, or P prime. So U is the willingness to pay for the first three groups of fans, 3U is the willingness to pay for the fourth group of fans, and P prime is the willingness to pay for the neutral spectators. And another possibility, the profit could be maximal also when the price exceeds the maximal willingness to pay. In that case, nobody will pay. Okay. So since we are interested in finding the zone of the model parameters where the second strategy is optimal, we can make several assumptions about the model parameters. And if we will be able at the end to find a point in that zone of the parameters such that strategy 2 is optimal there, then this will be the solution. So we will order these three willingness to pay, and we will assume that P prime is higher than U, but less than 3U. Okay, so consider this zone of parameters. Then we can calculate the profit that the TV holding gets from exploiting the first strategy, from broadcasting the strongest match on the free-to-air TV channel. So it's the maximum out of three numbers: this one, and this one. And what are these three numbers? It's when it's the profit when the manager chooses one of these prices. Okay, so this is the profit of the TV holding when the holding exploits the first strategy. We will do the same with the second strategy and the third strategy. When the weakest match is broadcasted free on the free-to-air TV channel, then once again we calculate the willingness to pay for all groups of fans, and they would like, the first, the second, and the third groups would like to pay 2U for subscription, because in this case, two matches of their favorite team will be broadcasted only on the paid TV channel, and the match of the fourth team will be always broadcasted on the free-to-air TV channel, so they would never pay anything for the paid channel in this case. Okay. As for the neutral spectators, once again, denote their willingness to pay by P2 primes, and now their willingness to pay will be equal to the sum of their utilities from watching the matches between from watching these top matches between the first and the second team, the second and the third team, and the first and the third team. And therefore we can calculate their willingness to pay. Okay. And now we can make the same calculations and calculate the profit of the holding when the holding uses the second strategy. That's the second profit. Okay. And finally, the third strategy. Now, no matches are broadcasted at all on the free-to-air TV channel. Now, the willingness to pay for the paid TV channel for the first, second, third, and fourth groups of fans will be 3U, because all matches will be broadcasted only on the paid TV channel. As for the neutral spectators, they can watch all six matches only on the paid TV channel, so their maximal willingness to pay is here. Okay? And now we can calculate the profit of the holding in this case. And now the necessary and sufficient conditions for the optimality of the second strategy. These 5 inequalities are sufficient for the optimality of the second strategy. So we can derive these inequalities by comparison of the arguments of these maximum functions for P1, P2, and P3. So we assume that this value must be higher than all components of the maximum functions for in P1 and in P3. And if we assume that, we write these all these inequalities, and if these inequalities hold, then we guarantee that the second strategy could be optimal. And finally, now when we have all these 5 inequalities, we make some simplifications and make these additional assumptions on the parameters of the models. If, for example, the size of the fourth group of fans is 0, that is, you can just assume that we normalize the groups of fans such that the support of the fourth team is 0. If we assume that the willingness to pay are ordered in this way, and if we assume that the share of the neutral spectator is large enough compared to the fans of the 3 teams, then in that case we can choose a point such that all these inequalities hold. We can just give an example of such point and can check that given these values, the second strategy is indeed optimal. Due to continuity, this point is not the single point such that the second strategy is optimal. There exists an open area around, at least one open area around this point, such that for each set of parameters in this open area, the second strategy is optimal. So this is not some single solution, yes? And this solution shows that Match TV, well, the strategy chosen by the TV channel Match TV is not puzzling at all. If the share of neutral spectators is large enough, then it could be optimal to broadcast weak match on the free-to-air channel and all other matches on the paid TV channels. We can also consider the second case, the case when there is a single obvious leader in the championship, but the calculations are pretty much the same, so I think that there is no reason to consider all those calculations. I just want that you get the idea of this model. So now the first version of this paper is ready, and we would be very grateful for your comments and suggestions. Now if you have any questions, I also would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmitry. We have plenty of time for questions. So if anyone does have any questions or comments, please do. Either you can write them in the chat room, or you can unmute your mic and ask them, or you can raise your hand if you want to.
Hi, Dmitry. This is Stefan here. I have a sort of an observation and a question. So your model seems to be essentially one of optimal price discrimination by a monopolist. So you frame this in terms of maximizing profit, but wouldn't it be maybe more appropriate in an economic sense to model this as the maximizing the welfare loss? So
sorry, Stefan, maximize what? Sorry.
The welfare loss.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a redistribution of rent from consumers to producers. So rather than thinking of this as being in any sense optimal, this is minimizing social welfare, not maximizing it. And I mean, yeah, sorry, go on.
Yes, Stefan, thank you for your question. Well, first of all, I'm not sure that this is a pure price discrimination model because, well, in this model, the TV channel cannot sell each match separately. So if they could only do that, then they can perfectly discriminate and get the maximal possible revenues from each group of fans. So due to the structure of this competition and due to the structure of the contracts, they cannot sell the rights to for any single match separately. They cannot set the price for each match separately. So I'm not sure that this is a pure discrimination model, but a sort of. Next, about the welfare, I agree with you that it is an important issue, and we can consider another objective function. So we didn't study it, but possibly we can think about how to about when social optimality can be reached. Yes, you're right. Thank you. We will do it.
Could I just actually make a point about that? I mean, the fact that it's not perfect price discrimination is actually an artifact of your model. Actually, I mean, I remember the times, I'm old enough to remember the times when broadcasting technologies were not capable of generating the discriminatory schemes. But now, with the way the broadcasting operates today, actually, there's no reason why a broadcaster could not price every game individually to every consumer. So, in fact, you know, the fact that it isn't perfect price discrimination in your model is actually artificially restrictive and not representative of the market today. And one of the things I think to bear in mind, the reason why this is important is, again, the restriction of broadcasting, sale of broadcasting rights, has a very long history in football and in sports in general. And it has, people like me have argued for a long time that this is profoundly anti-competitive. And if you think of the analogy here, if you thought of the scheme where this is just admitting people to entry, to watch something. Imagine that the clubs got together and restricted the sale of admission to stadiums pre-COVID on the basis of some monopolistic scheme which prices it in order to extract maximum rents from the fans, which perhaps involved not making some games available to fans to enter the stadium at all. You would consider that an outrage, and all of us would say you've got to be kidding. That's completely anti-competitive and illegal. And yet, when it comes to broadcasting, which is just another way of presenting a game, suddenly we become saying, "Oh yeah, it's fine. You can do this. What's the profit maximizing way to do this?" Rather than focusing on the welfare costs, which are, in my view, very large.
Well, I like this example. I like this analogy. Well, I didn't think about that. So I will think about the difference maybe between selling the tickets to spectators at the stadium and selling the rights to watch the match on the paid TV channel. But it seems that indeed this is a kind of a same situation. Well, the same discrete restrictions. Possibly, yes, I can agree, yes.
Any more questions, comments?
I have a question, maybe more from the institutional point of view in Russia, which may be interesting. When they opened this new match premiere?
It was 2 years ago, yes.
Yes, but when they open it, it is clear that the content of the good content from the free-to-air channel will go to the pay-per-view channel, right? And in that regard, are there any regulations that kind of make it not possible to transfer between the content? Because I know that, for example, in Israel, when there is an open channel, the open channel cannot just transfer the good content. They have to attract new content. And my question is, how does it work in Russia?
Well, there are no strict regulations about that. The holding that has these two channels possesses the broadcasting rights for the whole championship. And according to the contract, they can broadcast not more than one match per match day on the free-to-air channel. Yes. And well, one of the rationales for that is that, well, consider that there is a competition for the time on the free-to-air channel. There are different sports, there are different competitions. So you can think about that due to the, even without strict regulations, well, the free-to-air channel just cannot broadcast all matches on the free-to-air channel. Yes, in that case, those matches go to the paid channel. And
yeah, but they did. 2 years ago, they did. You
yes.
had matches on Match TV.
But after that, when they launched the new channel, the strategy changed. Yes, so they had more possibilities. They just were more flexible starting from that point. So instead of broadcasting not so popular matches on the free-to-air channel, they can now broadcast other competitions there. But no strict regulations as soon as I know.
But from the rational point of view, we could expect it that the good content will go to pay-per-view channels. So I'm really surprised that there is no such regulation that kind of defends customers or consumers.
Well, in Russia, no such regulation. Well, I think that in Russia, you can think about some, well, political issues. For example, when someone very high says, okay, there will be some elections soon, no reason to make angry the voters, so just please show all top matches on the free-to-air TV channel, and they will do it in that case. So I believe in this story. But as soon as I know no regulations about not showing mega events on the free-to-air channels.
Any more questions and comments? It's certainly true there's a significant number of regulations surrounding broadcasting in the UK and England. A lot of them have been stripped away the main one has been stripped away with coronavirus, which was that you couldn't air live matches between 3 and 5 p.m. on a Saturday for a long time. And then obviously another aspect of that has been, since the return of the Premier League, is that because all the games are being televised, some of them have returned to BBC, which is actually the first time the BBC has a football match since the late 1980s. But as I think you mentioned towards the end about the free-to-air, getting the not particularly attractive matches, the BBC showed Bournemouth playing Crystal Palace rather than Liverpool and Man City last night, for example.
Well, nowadays, by the way, Match TV broadcasts all matches on the free-to-air channel. So after the coronavirus time, the strategy has changed once again, but we all know that it's not for all the time. Well, it's due to the obvious reasons.
There's something that's sprung to mind as well in terms of, I don't think it's what Stefan was necessarily saying, but obviously one thing about the televising of football matches is the fans themselves that are in the stadium. And obviously I presume this isn't necessarily in any strategy just yet, but you wonder whether the valuation of a football match on TV is less when there aren't any fans in the stadium, when you've got just this synthetic computer-generated fan noise rather than the actual fans in the stadium.
Yeah, we will think about that. Thank you, Stefan, for this comment. Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you for listening to this presentation, and thank you for your comments. Now, James.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've got about 10 minutes, haven't we? So obviously, thank you everyone who's turned up for the Roses talk. As I mentioned, we're sitting within, and we're delighted, and thank you, Dmitry, for this, to be sitting within the 4th Eastern and the 6th Western Football Economics and Finance Conference today. You're welcome, if you come for the Roses talk, to stick around. What we're going to have in 10 minutes time, we'll have a little pause. You can go and get a coffee or whatever you want to get to sustain you through the afternoon. Not that you should need sustenance, given that there's a really high profile set of talks ahead of us. We have it at 3:30 UK time. We have Rob Simmons giving the next plenary talk. So we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll resume at 3:30 UK time, British Summer Time.